Nihao, welcome to a journey to China. Nihao, 欢迎到中国之旅第一册. I'm your teacher, Dr. Yu. In the Chinese language, I am Yu Bo Shi. In English, this means you doctor. Yu is my family name, and Bo Shi for my title, because I'm a doctor in education. In Chinese, the family name always comes before titles or the first name. To make things easy, you may address me as Dr. Yu. I'll be your teacher and guide through this video distance learning course. It's good to meet you. 幸会. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I was born in mainland China and grew up in Taiwan, an island southeast of China. Before I was 3 years old, I spoke the Mandarin, Cantonese, and Taiwanese dialects of the Chinese language. My first major in college was in Chinese literature. I am very familiar with Confucius philosophy and the poetry of Tang and Song dynasties. I came to the United States for my higher degrees in music and educational administration. My favorite place to visit is Beijing and other cities in China. I've had the honor of being invited to teach in China on a regular basis from different universities. Now, let's talk about a journey to China and you. You are about to begin a fascinating journey where you will learn to speak, to read, and write in Chinese dialects spoken by more than 1 billion people in the world, Mandarin Chinese. As you probably know, China is a large country. It has more than 1.3 billion people and 56 nationalities. Over 90% of the population is made up of the Han nationality. In China, 8 regional Chinese dialects are spoken. The major 3 regional dialects are Mandarin, Shanghaiese, and Cantonese. The Mandarin Chinese dialect has more native speakers than any other language in the world. Because there were so many dialects, the Chinese government decided to standardize spoken Chinese for ease in communication. This is how Mandarin Chinese became the official standard language of China. In Western countries, standard speech is called Mandarin Chinese. In China, standard speech is called 普通话, meaning common speech. People still speak the 8 regional Chinese dialects, but 普通话, standard Mandarin Chinese, is the language used in official governmental documents, taught in school, and used in television and radio. It's also one of the working languages used in the United Nations. In this course, you will learn standard Mandarin Chinese. The Chinese language is one of the world's oldest living languages. It's over 6,000 years old and going strong. Just think, if you can speak English and Mandarin Chinese, you will be able to speak with over half of the world's population. You might ask, if people of China speak 8 regional dialects, does everyone write in the same way to communicate? Good question. The answer is yes. Thanks to Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, the written language of China is the same for everyone. We will learn to read and to write the beautiful characters of Chinese language during this course. China is captivating, and you'll learn about the culture and history of China as we go on our journey. We'll celebrate the Chinese New Year, watch Chinese Kung Fu, appreciate Chinese food, and have lots of fun. I know you are going to enjoy it. Now, I'm interested in you. Why did you choose to study Chinese? Some of you might say, I want to travel and order food in a Chinese restaurant in Chinese. Yes, that's one of our program's goals. I'll teach you the Chinese that can meet your daily needs, such as how to order in a Chinese restaurant, introduce yourself to new people, say I love you, 我爱你, or even find a restroom when you need it. I know some of you are eager to learn how to say I love you. Let's try. 我爱你，我爱你，我爱你。我 is I is love. 你 is you. Think of the knee you have on your leg. 我爱你，我爱你。Now say it with me. 我爱你。好, good. Was that fun and easy? I'm sure everyone in your class could say this phrase. Chinese sounds and grammar are much easier than English and Spanish, believe it or not. Writing characters looks complicated, but you can learn it quickly. So, in Chinese 1, you are expected to be able to speak with Chinese people about basic topics and be able to read and write in Chinese characters, about 100 characters. We'll have both written tests and performance tests to see if you can use your Chinese to communicate, and that's fun too. Someone might say, it sounds like fun, but I can't remember characters. I am not that smart. I have many successful students, English speakers, who can write good characters from memory. When I asked them the secrets, they said, nothing. I just use flashcards to read and write whenever I have time. The difference is not that they are smart, but they practice more. They repeat, recite, and represent what they've learned that day, and that's fun. That's all you need for mastering a foreign language. In other words, to be successful in our program, you should repeat, participate and repeat with the audio CD, and the teacher's pronunciation. Repeat by reading out loud and copying the characters. That's part of your homework, so always complete your homework. Recite. After class, recite, repeat from memory all the sentences you learned in the day's lesson. Understand the grammatical structure and find some relationships between the new words and the old ones. Or use your original knowledge and language to help you as you recite. Represent. Try to use what you've learned. Speak and write as many Chinese sentences and words as you can during and after class. Practice repeating words and writing as much as possible. I'm going to challenge you to practice regularly, even if it's in short daily sessions. Here's why. If you start repeating what you've learned in class and in your homework, then being able to recite it from memory will be a natural result. When you can recite what you've learned, being able to represent, that is, really use what you've learned comes next, and it will become second nature for you. According to research, to remember a new word in a foreign language, a person needs to repeat the word at least 70 times. The point is to really know and understand the new information. Read it, write it, and say it until it becomes yours. To get the most out of this language course, there are a few more things to know. First of all, learning Mandarin Chinese through video distance learning is just as effective as a class where I would be with you face to face. I'm here in my studio classroom, and you are in your classroom with your teacher facilitator. We all must participate together. It's my job to teach you Mandarin Chinese and lead you on our journey. Your part will be to participate by listening, speaking, reading, and writing. I'd like you to study as diligently as possible so you can acquire the skills to communicate in Mandarin Chinese. It's your teacher facilitator's job to host the video class, hand out and collect worksheets, review concepts, give assignments, take up homework, and give you tests. Some teacher facilitators may be learning along with you. Your Chinese conversation teacher will be working with you in person as you practice vocabulary, dialogues, voice tones, and perfect your Chinese accent. So, I expect you to bring your materials, do your best, and discover that you have chosen to do something unique. Learn a language that is probably so different from your own that you will be challenged and delighted with the results. Are you ready to begin today's lesson? 好，开始吧。Fine, let's begin. A little while ago, I greeted you by saying Nihao. When a Chinese person greets you, he or she will say Nihao. Nihao means hello. Translated into English, Ni means you. Hao means good or well. I want you to listen closely, so listen again. Ni hao. Ni hao. Look at the graphic on the screen. You can see Ni hao written in Chinese characters and also in phonetic form called pinyin using Roman letters. We'll learn more about pinyin a little later. Listen to me say Ni hao again. Then repeat it after me. Ni hao. Ni hao. Ni hao. Yes, Ni hao. You've learned your first words in Chinese. Turn to your neighbor and say hello in Chinese. Some other expressions of greeting in Chinese culture are, where are you going? Or, have you eaten? In the culture of the USA, these greetings might be thought of as intruding on someone's privacy, or they might show concern. In Chinese culture, these greetings show care for each other. Chinese people often say Ni hao to each other when they're introduced or at any time of day. Of course, greeting someone can include introducing yourself. Listen. 我是 I am. 我是 translated 我 means I and me. 是 means am, is, or are. Let's practice. Repeat after me. 我是我是我是 Now, add your name to the end of the sentence. I'll go first. 我是于博士. I am Dr. Yu. Now, you try using your own name. Introduce yourself the Chinese way. Say your last name first, then your first name. 好, good. Now, let's combine the greeting 你好 with the introduction 我是, then complete it by using your name. I'll go first. 你好, 我是于博士. Now, you try. Now, let's practice for a moment. Greet and introduce yourself in Chinese to your neighbors, to your left, then to your right. Excellent! 好极了! Based on what you've learned so far, do you know how to say you are in Chinese? Think about it. In Chinese culture, when addressing a teacher, you would use their family name first, followed by their social title, teacher. It's the same way when you address people using social titles like Mr., Mrs., or Miss, or people that have a business title like manager. Here are some examples. Teacher Li is Li Lao Shi. Mr. Li is Li Xian Sheng. Mrs. Li is Li Tai Tai. Miss Li is Li Xiao Jie. And Manager Li is Li Jing Li. Using this cultural practice, when your conversation teacher comes to class, I want you to address them using their title, 老师, after saying their family name. Let's practice saying the title 老师, meaning teacher. Listen. 老师, 老师, 老师. Now, repeat it after me. 老师, 老师. Practice using the term 老师 by also addressing your teacher facilitator using their title 老师. You've learned hello and I am. Now, let's learn goodbye. 再见. Listen again. 再见. Translated, 再 means again, and 见 means to see. 再见. Repeat the parts after me. 再见. Now, combine the parts and say it after me. 再见. Let's say together, 再见. Now practice saying goodbye to your neighbor in Chinese. Now that we've learned the phrase hello, I am, and goodbye, can you remember these without looking at your notes or textbook? Recall it and say the phrase. Hello, 你好, I am, 我是, and goodbye, 再见. Very good, 很好. Let's look at our sentences on the screen. When you read the sentences, you'll notice the use of the Roman alphabet to show how the Chinese characters sound. 你好, 你好. 我是, 我是. 再见, 再见. This brings us back to an important part of learning spoken Chinese, the use of pinyin that I mentioned earlier. Pinyin is a system that represents the sound of Chinese characters by using Roman letters to create phonetic symbols. The sound and pronunciation of letters in Pinyin is somewhat different than in English. Pinyin means spell sound or spelling of the sound. That makes sense, doesn't it? Since there's no clear and direct relationship between Chinese characters and sounds. It's more efficient to learn spoken Chinese by using Roman letters or pinyin. For Westerners, pinyin is essential, and you'll find it a great help as a beginner. The current pinyin system we use was introduced in 1958 by the government of the People's Republic of China. It's the official phonetic system of mainland China, and it's used as an international system to express the sounds of the Mandarin Chinese language. It's also used to spell Chinese names and places. Look at this street sign in Beijing. It has both Chinese characters and pinyin written on it. 你会念吗? Can you read it? You will eventually be able to read it and pronounce the pinyin in this sign and other printed materials, even though you might not know the meaning of the words. Pinyin is a helpful tool to learn the sounds of Mandarin Chinese. Let's get more familiar with pinyin syllables. First of all, each Chinese character is pronounced as a single syllable. Each pinyin syllable usually consists of 3 elements or parts. Look at our graphic. There is the initial or consonant of the syllable, the final or vowels of the syllable, and the tone mark of the syllable. There are a little more than 400 syllable sounds used in common speech and 1,800 syllables if you include the variation of tones used. By mastering these 400 plus syllables, you can pronounce any word in Chinese. How many syllables are used in English? Do you know? There are about 8,000. Wow! Look at today's vocabulary. Can you identify the initials, finals, and tone marks? Let's look at Nihao. Initials N, H. Simple finals I. Compound finals Ao, Nihao. Let's look at 我是. Initials Wu, Shi. Simple finals which are O, 再见. The initials Z, Ji. The compound finals are I and Yan. 再见. Let's look at the tone marks. 你. The tone goes down, then up. 好. 我. 是 is a 4th tone. 是. 再见. These are the 4th tone. Let's do that again. 你好. 我是. 再见. In Chinese pinyin, there are a total of 6 simple finals, or vowels, with 4 tones, plus a 5th neutral tone with no mark. The 6 simple finals are the vowel sounds, where the tone marks are used to show the type of sound you will use when speaking. The total of 6 simple finals. A, O, I, U, Ü. Let's do it again. A, O, I, U, Ü. Let me repeat. A, O, like the word fun, I want to inform you that the sound of the letter E changes when it is combined with other vowels. We'll learn more about that in later lessons. I, U, Yu. With the 4 tone marks and a neutral. The first sound I'll do with ah. Ah. Simply straight, no change of the tone. Ah. Now let's do the second with ah. Ah. Go up. Ah. Let's do the third. Ah. Go down and up. Ah. Let's do the fourth tone. Ah. Let's do the fifth tone. Ah. Let's try it again. Ah. 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 You've done very well today with your first lesson in Mandarin Chinese. As a famous Chinese proverb says, teachers open the door, but you must walk through it yourself. You've learned a lot today, how to greet someone, introduce yourself, and say goodbye in Chinese. We've looked at a Chinese street sign and began to study pinyin. You also have an overview of what is expected of you during this course. You've made a good start. Practice and memorize the following sentences from today's lesson. 你好, 我是, and 再见. I hope you are as excited about learning Mandarin Chinese as I am in teaching you. Be prepared for our next lesson by completing your assignments. And I will look forward to seeing you next time as we continue together on a journey to China. And remember, 学无止境, learning never ends. 再见. Goodbye.